I'm still not 100% certain if Harriet's spying habits are a good thing or a bad thing. I'm still kind of leaning towards not so good thing, but I'm still having lots of fun getting to know her and learning more about her as a character. Episode 1 seems to focus a lot more on spying than episodes 2 and 3, because in episode 2 we had the conflict with Marion and the whole coat vote thing, and now we have the dancing school. So let's talk a little bit more about that particular story now. It's 1964, and the mothers of the east side of Manhattan are sending their daughters to a school where they learn how to dance in a formal setting, like like ballroom dancing, like waltzes and stuff. And apparently in those days, that was kind of a norm, which brings up an interesting question. How necessary was it? I mean, should we force our kids to go to a school where they learn how to dance like that? Should that be a requirement? To me, it seems a little bit odd that they were making their kids do this when they're that young. I mean, they're only 11 years old. And most of the kids, well, with the exception of Marion, of course, because Marion had that crush on the older boy. Oh, what was his name? Was it Philip or something? He was Carrie Andrews' older brother. I think it was Philip. But anyway, aside from that, most of the kids weren't really thinking about having any kind of love interest in, the opposite gender. So I don't see how there would be much of an interest for those kids to... I don't see any reason why those kids would be interested in wanting to know how to dance like that at that age. I don't know, should they learn ballroom dancing at that age when they're younger so that they'll know how to do it when they're older? Or should they wait until they're a little older when they're a little bit more enthusiastic about the idea of, dating and getting into relationships and stuff when they would actually want to know how to dance like that? What do you guys think? Kind of an interesting thing to think about. And that brings us to Mr. Dubois, the dance instructor. The first couple times I watched this, I hated him. I'm just gonna put that right out in the open. Because Mr. Dubois' character kind of comes across as a jerk. He really does. I mean, I totally understand his motivation. He sees these young children as an opportunity to, kind of reform them and turn them into adults by making them learn how to dance in a perfectly elegant fashion. I don't particularly have anything against that. What I don't like is Mr. Dubois' attitude about it. His tone of voice and his facial expressions get really nasty when one of the kids makes a mistake. I mean, yes, if they're doing something wrong, it is good to point it out so that they can correct it and learn how to do it better, but I don't know, I just felt like he could have done that in a much nicer way. But the thing about Mr. Dubois that really ticked me off was his obsession with the girls wearing gloves, thinking that boys are basically germs. It seems like this man has bought into the stereotype that girls are always clean and boys are always dirty. I mean, yes, boys sometimes, or a lot of the times, they could improve their hygiene a little bit, and, ordinarily, especially back in the old days, boys often did things with their hands that would involve a lot more, dirty stuff, they would run around and play ball and get sweaty, or they would roll around in the grass and get muddy, and even grown men back then, if they would work in, factories, or construction sites, or something where they do a lot of stuff with their hands, then their fingers and hands would be rough and have calluses on them. I think that's what Mr. Dubois said when he meant the coarseness, because when he said, the germs, the coarseness, the horror, I mean, it seems really strange that a grown man would be freaking out over stuff like that. I mean, he is a man, isn't he? Is he freaking out over his own coarseness or germs or whatever, too? Or does he think that every other boy is 1,000 times more disgusting than he is? I don't know. But again, his whole attitude about that situation just kind of gave off the impression that he believes that girls are good and boys are bad. When I was growing up, that was a really big deal. Pop culture was really big on saying that, girls rule and boys drool, and I absolutely hated that. And to see a grown adult kind of defending that attitude, I found that very disturbing. But I suppose there is some truth to the fact that, in the 60s, men's hands would typically be dirtier and rougher than women's hands, And if you're in like a fancy party or at a ball dancing, then I suppose the women would wear gloves because they want to keep their hands clean, because the men have been out working all day before they went to this party. And even if they did wash their hands, then, well, even if they did, their hands would still be a lot rougher and possibly still a little dirtier too, so you never know. But that idea wouldn't really be as prevalent in later years, because in the 70s and 80s, a lot of men started working office jobs where they wouldn't have to get as dirty and develop as many calluses as they had in previous generations. So once again, Harriet, just hang in there a little bit longer. The world's about to change, and I think you're gonna like it. So then we get to the parts where Harriet and Pinky Whitehead sort of get tangled up and fall to the floor, and Mr. Dubois says, "You are leading, not following like a young lady is supposed to." And that's when Harriet discovers that it's not normal for a girl to lead in this kind of situation, and she gets infuriated by that. And the teacher says that the reason that boys usually lead is because they are bigger and stronger, which doesn't really make sense in that particular situation because Harriet is bigger than Pinky. And there's gotta be some kind of way that a tall girl and a shorter boy can dance together. I mean, if you Google it, I'm sure you can find some kind of tips on how to do that in a good way, but nobody could figure it out back then. And see, here's the thing about the whole boys being bigger and stronger thing. It makes perfect sense that a bigger and stronger person should lead a person who is smaller and weaker. And 90% of the time, the stronger person is the male. And so that's why, typically in dancing, the men lead and the women follow. But then society just kind of gets tangled up in that whole gender thing, and rather than saying the stronger person should lead and the weaker person should follow, they just get all hung up on the whole men should lead and women should follow thing. And it sort of becomes like a tradition. But when you think about it, the reason they did it that way wasn't because anybody really had to per se. They did it that way because it worked. And so when you get into a rare situation where it doesn't necessarily work, what do you do then? Does the person who truly is stronger lead? Or is the person who is typically expected to be stronger lead? That's a very controversial question, so I'm just gonna let you guys figure that out amongst yourselves, okay? But I will say this, though. I do think it's good for kids to learn how to function in situations where they are required to follow a teacher's instructions and cooperate with a partner. And it doesn't necessarily have to be ballroom dancing. Like, there's lots of different ways that kids can learn how to do that. Like, for instance, on Reading Rainbow a few weeks ago, we did the episode when Aunt Leah did the rumba. And in that episode, we had that segment with the Boys Choir of Harlem. And Dr. Walter Turnbull seemed to be a really good disciplined teacher for those boys, helping them learn how to sing well and sing together as a group so that they all sound beautifully. That all requires a great deal of cooperation and obedience in terms of paying attention to the conductor. And yes, Dr. Turnbull did correct the boys when they made a mistake or didn't sing something right, and he was pretty firm about it, like he didn't play around. But at least from what I could see on Reading Rainbow, he didn't do it in any kind of a mean-spirited way like they depicted on Harry the Spy with Mr. Dubois. So yeah, it could be dancing or singing or even playing a sport, because like Dr. Turnbull said, a choir is like any basketball team or any football team because you have to work together in order to sing well together. It's just like what they were trying to do in this dancing school. In order to dance well, you got to cooperate with your partner and try to synchronize with each other so that you don't step on each other's toes. So there are plenty of ways for kids to learn about obedience and cooperation. Those are absolutely good things. I'm all for that. And as far as formal dancing is concerned, you don't really have to spend a huge pile of money to send your kids to a special school for that. I mean, just at home, as parents, you can try to teach your kids a few basic steps and just some very basic pointers on good manners and proper etiquette